be blunt about it. Those that have been shooting all these missiles and rockets and sending out all these drones at the ships in the Kush Sea, or some refer to as Houthis, well, they are literally armed and funded by Persia. Persia is in so much debt to Beijing that they are a default colony of Beijing. They have profited off of the Russia-Ukraine war, selling Shahed drones to Moscow and giving Moscow a license to build some of them on the soil of Russia. So when the Houthis, as some refer to them as, were firing all these ships, well, Beijing and Moscow didn't care until they started hitting their ships. Now, in order for Beijing to continue to survive, they need access to the Great Sea because so-called Europe is their second largest market. So when their ships are being fired on going into and out of the Kemetic Canal, that's a problem. As I said earlier, this is actually beginning to slow down now. They're not shooting on ships like they were before. They're not shooting at all now. And what's caused this? 2 plus 2 is 4. Beijing told their default colony, those in Persia, enough. And Persia told the Houthis, enough. And the result of that is fewer ships being fired on. And the result of that, ships can now sail in and out of the Kemetic Canal with less concern. So now they can get insurance to sail their cargoes through again instead of having to sail all the way around Alkebu-lan, which again adds time to the travel, which means the crews aboard those ships had to be paid more because they're on board longer. The cost of shipping goes up because the cost per nautical mile has gone up. Certain things have to be bonded. The cost of those bonds go up, and bonds only cover up to 60% of what's being bonded, as a rule. So, again, 2 plus 2 is 4. The guys doing the shooting, were told, stop or you get no more funds and no more arms. And those who told them that, told them to stop, I got it handled. So Beijing's not concerned about getting their ships sunk in those areas anymore. And apparently neither is Russia. It'll take a little while for it to show up in the inflation numbers coming back down partially. However, it's going to show up. The other half of the inflation, though, again, would be transportation costs. The oil price, as some would call it, will moderate some as well a little bit to that degree. However, there's other factors. We're coming into summer soon, and summer is the peak season for folks traveling back and forth to beaches and traveling on vacations. So oil demand will go up. However, again, I know folks are talking about it's going to be quote unquote $100 a barrel, quote unquote $200 a barrel. Highly unlikely. You might break 90 for a few days, maybe, the way things are currently standing. Now, if Ukraine takes out, they've already taken out 17 refineries. If they take out any more refineries in Russia, all right, mid-90s is not out of the question. However, they switch tactics. They're not so much hitting those refineries anymore. They're hitting the oil depots where they have the big oil tanks. The refineries, they hit so many of them, and they're going to be offline for a year anyway, unless they can reach further into Russia, which is apparently becoming more and more the case because they're hitting things 1,300 kilometers away from their border now. What's supposed to last for 3 days to 5 days max is over 2 Earth years and counting. Not our fight, not our business on the form. Don't care. I do care about how it impacts our fellow kith and kindred, the melanated across the planet, who can't get those grains. Recently, the Russians took out a vegetable oil plant that was owned by our family from quote-unquote Singapore. This is really getting out of hand, but these things are impacting food growth and food preparation all across the planet. Over what is beyond me. I just know that ultimately the cost of grains all across Alkebu-lan and the Ab.Zu and the cost of rice has gone sky high. And again, it comes back to the Russia-Ukraine war, and it's most unfortunate.